fuck all y'all. I never even liked y'all in the first place. Y'all got kiss my ass. Y'all got all of that. I'm beating y'all, everybody. I'm locking this shit down, and then I'm beating everybody ass. I promise you. Hey, I got a question. What would you do if? Cause I just randomly thought about this when I opened up that closet, that door. What would y'all do if like y'all opened up a door in your house, like to the bathroom, to your bedroom, to the basement, to wherever? What would you do if you opened up like a random door in your house and it was literally another world? Or it was like a different point in life. Like you open up the door and you saw dinosaurs walking around. Like what would you do? I'm not gonna lie. If I opened up a door in my house and like I saw like I don't know, like I saw what's a like SpongeBob, like that world, I'm probably going in. I don't know. But I'm just saying, that'd be crazy. I feel like there's a movie. I've seen a movie like that. I forgot what the name of it was called, but I remember like a very specific scene in the movie where the kid opened up the door. It was like a babysitter and like two little boys. I don't know what was going on, but he opened up the door and it was just space. Okay, I'm getting off topic. Let's go. Stop! Though, mind you, let me just say this right now. The speaker that I'm using right now is it's my HomePod. But that's not the speaker that I usually use is not working anymore. So I need to get a new speaker. But the speaker that I'm using is my HomePod. For some reason, the HomePod speaker goes in and out. So I just want to let you know that I'm so sorry. Let's go. Sup, though. All right.
This is the story of the only time that I've ever went to Dollar Tree. It was years ago now. Up to that point, I just never really lived close to one, and when I was younger, my parents never went there or anything. So when I got older, it was never part of my routine to go to Dollar Tree. I was always kind of curious about it though. Finally, one time, I lived in at the time, I needed to get a few things, and instead of going to my normal store, I decided to go to the Dollar Tree. I wanted to see for myself how the quality of the products were and also how much. So I drove from my apartment to the local Dollar Tree, which was less than 10 minutes from my place. I arrived at night and parked in the quiet parking lot. It was not super late, but definitely after the afternoon and evening rush. So I got inside the store and it was very quiet there as well. I didn't really see any other people around the store shopping.
Hey, do not sleep on the dollar stores. Do not sleep on the dollar stores, bro. The only thing I probably will never get is food. Like real food. Not no snacks. I'm talking about like meat and eggs and I'm not, nah. No. I would try my luck at Walmart before I go to a dollar store and get, nah. You got it. And I'll be damned if I go to a dollar store and I see like some meat or some like eggs or whatever. And you know how like some stores have like, oh, Walmart made this. Publix made it. Target made this. If I go to a dollar store and I see like a steak or something. It was like, and it said like dollar store made the steak. Go ahead and kill me because I'm not not doing it.
Started going around the store seeing what they had. Overall, there was a good selection, but not a lot of the usual brands that I would get. In the midst of looking around though, I was in the store for maybe 5 minutes before something weird happened. I was in an aisle looking at stuff, and this woman entered the aisle as well. I did not look at her, but it was like I could feel that she was looking at me. But I didn't look over at her still, and I just kept looking at the product.
Hold on. That's gotta be some shit. That's gotta be something like, yeah. You know what I mean? Can you imagine going someplace for the very first time when you've been skeptical most of your life? You know what I mean? Like, you never went to Walmart before. You never went to McDonald's before. But you're skeptical. Like, you heard about it, you know what it is, right? But you just never went there before because either you heard stories or you just, for some odd reason, you just never went there. And then you decide to go to Walmart for the first time and you get clucked up. Oh my God. Yeah, nah, you got it, brother.
I was done in that aisle. I moved to the next one, and when I did that, I finally looked over. I saw the woman, and she appeared to be looking at me still. So I went to the other aisle and continued shopping, where the woman soon joined me. She didn't get that close to me, but kept a distance. The woman was sort of short, appeared to be around 40 or so, and had dark hair with a lot of volume. So I just ignored her really, but it seemed like everywhere that I went, she would trail behind me a little ways. I didn't know why this was, but I didn't really want to confront her. So instead, I just ignored her really. After a long time of this though, it was getting annoying. Soon enough, I was done shopping and I went to check out and leave. I was wondering if the woman would continue to seemingly follow me. But when I got to the checkouts, I couldn't see her anymore. So I paid for all my stuff and then I left. I went to my car in the parking lot and put my things inside, and then I got in the car. Right as I started my engine, I saw another car that was in the parking lot driving. I wasn't sure where this car had been, if it was arriving at the Dollar Tree or leaving, because I hadn't been paying attention, but it was approaching my car, so I waited to back out until it passed. However, the car turned, and now it was driving straight for me. The next thing I knew, this car drove right into the back of my car, rear-ending me.
Oh my God.
It really wasn't that bad of a crash, and I wasn't injured or anything, but it was extremely surprising. Then the car that hit me started to back up. When this was happening, I saw the driver. It was the same woman who had been following me around inside the store. That really shocked me. What was this lady's problem? After crashing into my car and then backing up, she quickly drove off. I didn't have the lady's license plate, obviously. When the cops got there, I could only tell them what I knew. My car was damaged pretty good in the back. Thankfully, insurance covered it. But it was found out later that the woman had been driving without a license and the car wasn't even hers. But that doesn't explain her strange behavior. My best guess is drugs.
I'm saying, that's a possibility. I'm not gonna hold you. Or she could have been on some clutch shit.
I worked at a dollar store for a while. This was years ago now. Sometimes shady characters would come in from time to time. I was never too worried though because nothing ever really happened. But one time I was working by myself one evening. The dollar store would be closing soon as it was approaching 10 p.m. I was the only one working and by myself. Typically this time of night was very quiet and we hadn't had any customers come in a while. I had checked out a customer maybe 10 minutes prior and nobody else had entered the store since. So I was all by myself up at the checkouts. I was just on my phone bored and waiting to get off of work. But it wasn't too bad, the fact that I could just sit there and play games on my phone and stuff. I was completely fine with nobody else being there. It was very quiet.
If you know what store I probably would never work at, it's like those, I don't know why I'm saying this, but those jewelry stores or like them shoe stores. The reason I say this is because every time I go to a mall, it's either the jewelry stores, the shoe stores, I don't know, probably the suit stores. It's just like random stores that Almost every time I see them type of stores, it's almost nobody in that motherfucker. It's just the employees. I cannot work in a place like that. I cannot. You're dumb slow. Like, you ever see that shit? You go to a mall, you see a jewelry store, ain't nobody in that mother. Like, you be in the store for like, I don't know, maybe an hour or so, or a few hours. And how do y'all work in a place like that? Like, I like, I would be on my phone, but even I would get bored after a certain time. To the people that work in those slow ass stores, I'm talking about one customer every shift, if that. What are you doing? Like, I understand that's easy. It's probably easy money. But at the same time, I will probably go insane.
Inside the store for a while, only the small sound of the low volume from the game that I was playing on my phone. Then, out of nowhere, I suddenly heard a sound. It was coming from somewhere in the store.
What?
It sounded like something had fallen off a shelf. The way that it broke the silence kind of spooked me, and I felt a little nervous. I looked in the direction but couldn't see anything. Our dollar store was about an average size for one, so the store wasn't that big. However, I could only see a few aisles, and there were many places that were out of my sight.
Hey.
After looking in the direction...
Hey, I promise you, if you expect me to go over to where I think I heard that sound, I'm not. Keep on breaking shit. I'm not going over there. The only way I'm walking is outside the door. Especially if I'm by myself. Because if you think for a hot second, I'm about to go investigate about what happened, where that noise came from, what was going on, I'm not. It's a dollar store. I promise you I'm not getting paid that much. Not to do all that.
A little while, I still couldn't see anything. I didn't hear anything else now either, so I stayed where I was.
Okay.
I chalked it up to maybe just an item that was placed too close to the edge of a shelf or something. I continued with my game, but I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit nervous now. Then it happened again. I heard another item fall off a shelf seemingly. This time I knew something was up. I looked over, but this was out of my sight as well. So I got up and decided to investigate. I was pretty nervous, but I made my way over towards where I had heard the noise. As I quietly walked, I didn't hear anything else at all. I got closer, and soon I saw what fell. There were two products in the same aisle that had fallen down. Nobody else appeared to be inside of the store. I looked at where the items had fallen from, and I had no idea how they could have fallen on their own. So I put them back, and then I started to walk around the store. As I was doing so, I heard another noise. Something fell from a shelf on the other end of the store way out of my sight. Now I was super creeped out. I called out, asking if anybody was in the store.
Shut up!
There was no answer. I slowly walked over to where this next noise had come from. When I got to that aisle, I saw something else on the ground. I didn't see anybody though.
Okay. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I would have left after that first sound, but after the second or third sound, I'm leaving. I'm not investigating nothing. You got it. You got it. What are you talking about? Side note. Has nothing to do with the story. If you got, I guess, if you was in a store and something happened, like outside the store, and there was a lockdown for God knows how long, what kind of store would you want to be trapped in? That sounds crazy. That sounds like a cluck thing to say, but I would Costco. I would be satisfied because they got water, food for days, You know what I mean? Probably someplace to sleep. Either that, IKEA. I would say Walmart, but I don't know. Sam's Club, BJ's. No, not BJ's. Not BJ's. What else? Yeah, I think that's it. I don't know why I said that, but yeah.
I looked around and then called out again, asking if anybody was there. Still nothing. Now I was in the far back corner of the store, and at that point I suddenly heard the sound of footsteps. It was not very loud, and I could only barely hear it, but it sounded like somebody running. They were making their way up towards the front of the store. I started walking over there. By the time I got within view of the front, I actually saw somebody. There was a man up at the check lanes, specifically the one that I had been at. I really couldn't believe it. I had no idea that anybody else had been in the store. The man was trying to get into the cash register. Thankfully, I had locked the cash register because I hadn't used it in a while. It was a habit for me to not leave it unlocked. The man saw me come into his view. He continued trying to open it and then tried picking it up and then started banging on it. He looked over at me and I kept my distance but yelled at him to stop. The man didn't say anything. Then he jumped up and moved to another register. That one was also locked. They all were.
Hey, can you imagine the person that's in the store doing all that cluck shit, making all that noise at the cash register? Hey, employee walks up. Hey, what you doing? Yeah, I'm trying to check out. I'm ready to check out. I got my things.
I yelled that I was calling the police, and then I got out my phone. The man messed around with that one for a while, and then he got up and ran away. He left the store running off over to the doors and then locked them. We were closing early now, and I didn't care if anybody else showed up. Then I waited for the police. When they got there, I spoke with them, giving my account of what happened and so forth. They said that they would go look for the man. After that, though, I don't think he was ever located. He didn't come back to that store, though, I know that. He must have been really good at keeping quiet, because I had no clue that anybody had been inside the store. I'm not sure when the man got there or how he stayed out of my sight for so long. That was the scariest experience from working at the dollar store, though.
That's crazy. Not you was there by yourself, though. Not you was the only employee. Hell no.
This is my crazy experience from when I went shopping at Family Dollar one time. I would go there occasionally. It has pretty cheap prices on groceries and things like that. So I went there one day and got a cart and then started shopping inside. It wasn't too busy. There were a few people here and there, but not that many. I was getting mainly groceries, but a few other items as well. As I made my way around the store, things were going good. Soon I reached the far back of the store. At this Family Dollar, the far back was where the refrigerated and freezer items were. So I was looking through the food there, and I spent a couple of minutes in that area. As I was doing this, I ventured a few feet away from my shopping cart to get something. That's when I noticed something really strange. I saw a man was on top of one of the freezers. These things are like 7 or 8 feet tall, but there's a gap between the top of them and the ceiling. The man had been lying down on top of one of them, almost completely hidden from anybody's view.
Jesus.
I had no idea why he had been up there. He wasn't a worker or anything. Was he hiding from someone or just being weird? After getting up, he stood on top of the freezer and looked around. I couldn't help but stop and watch him. He looked at me and I asked him what he was doing up there. The man said something, but I couldn't understand him. He had a sort of dirty and disheveled look. Some other people nearby started to notice the man. We stood and watched him now walking across the tops of the freezers in the back of the store. After he made it about even with my shopping cart, he stood there, and then he suddenly jumped down. He jumped directly into my cart. He was too big to land in it though, so the cart tipped over and fell to the ground. It also caused a bunch of my items to fall out of the cart as well. It made a loud noise, and if anybody else wasn't already looking at the man or in this direction, they were now. I was at a loss for words and just stood there in disbelief at what I was witnessing. The man was not hurt despite taking quite a fall. He got up right to his feet and then started jogging away to the front of the store. He went out of my sight, and I didn't know if he was going to leave or what, but I was just glad that he had gotten away from me. I went over to my cart and picked it up, and then I started picking up my items. Some of the nearby shoppers made some comments about what had just happened. After picking my cart back up, I continued on. In doing so, I heard some shouting from the front of the store. The employees were trying to make the guy leave, it seemed. I was really curious at that point, so I couldn't help but make my way a little closer to the front to see what was going on. There were 3 employees near the guy. They were practically begging him to leave the store. The man finally turned and jogged off out of the doors. I watched him go to a car and then get inside and then drive off very quickly. When he was finally gone, I think that everybody in the store let out a sigh of relief. The guy seemed like a loose cannon. I was able to finish up my shopping at that point. I spent maybe another 5 minutes getting things and then went up to the front and checked out. After that, I left the Family Dollar. As I was driving home, something crazy happened though. I first stopped off to get gas and then I made a quick stop at another store. Then I was actually going back to my house. I noticed up ahead on the road several police cars. There was an officer standing there waving me to the side of the road. I saw another one up ahead holding the spike strip things that the cops use to stop cars. I pulled over and then I heard sirens behind me as well. I looked back and saw lights. Then I saw a car come zooming up behind me on the road. It was the same car that the guy had gone into. This must be him. He was speeding, going way too fast. He went right past me and then the cop tossed the spikes, which the man tried to avoid but ran over. And in trying to avoid them, he also lost control of his car and spun out. At least 5 police cars then cornered him in. I watched the man get out and it was the same guy from the Family Dollar. The police arrested him and I was able to go home. It was really crazy how I saw the guy again. He must have left Family Dollar only to lead the police on a crazy chase. That was a very memorable trip to the dollar store.
Yeah, I'm done with dollar stores after that.
I worked at a Dollar Tree for a while years back. I think I worked there for about 6 months. For this story, I'm just going to say that my name is Jennifer, even though it really isn't. When I worked at Dollar Tree, I was mostly a cashier. One night, this creepy guy came into the store. I'd been working there for a few months to that point, and sometimes I had to close the store by myself. The store didn't typically get that busy, especially later at night, so I was working by myself this time. The reason I say the guy who came in was creepy is because that's the feeling I got right away. He walked in and sort of looked around with these weird eyes. He went into the store and shopped around for a bit, and I stopped paying attention to him. Then he eventually got to the checkout. I remember that he only got a couple of things, I think some energy drinks and something else. When I was scanning his items, he asked me out. It wasn't a very polite or gentleman way to do so either. I was not interested, not even slightly. But I still wasn't going to be rude because I was working at my job and I was also by myself with this creep at night. The last thing I wanted to do was tick him off, so I tried to politely decline his advances. He kept persisting though, and I made it clear to him that I wasn't going to change my mind. He asked me when I got off of work and when we closed and that sort of stuff. Even after he had paid and I gave him his receipt and stuff, he still wasn't leaving. Finally, after I still said no, he walked off. At this point, we maybe closed in a little over an hour. I continued working. A few other customers came in here and there. We never really got that busy though. It was pretty easy work for the most part, but then the man came back inside the store again. The same creepy guy who had asked me out before. This gave me a pretty bad feeling because obviously I did not want to see this guy, and he had just been in here, so what could he possibly want now? The man walked in, and instead of shopping or anything like that, he walked directly up to me. He acted like me telling him off had never happened. The guy asked if I was off of work yet, and I said no. Then he said that he would be waiting for me, which really creeped me out. Now, in this moment, there were 2 other customers inside the store, and I knew that. So I got a little brave, feeling like the man wouldn't try anything stupid, or if he did, there were other people who could possibly help me. I told the guy not to wait for me. I said, I'm not interested in you, pal. I don't want to go out with you, and I'm just trying to finish my shift, so leave me alone now. The man then said that he was going to find out more about me. Then he walked away and left. I didn't know what he meant by that, but I was glad that he was gone and I had made my message clear. For a few days, I didn't see him. Then, another night when I was at work, he came back. This time, he walked into the store again pretty late and came right up to me. When he did, he said, "Hello, Jennifer," and said my last name too. We did have name tags at the Dollar Tree, but I hadn't been wearing mine the last time I saw him, or this time either.
So somebody's in cahoots. Somebody in your job is okay. Okay. I don't care who the clock person is. I don't care which employee. Everybody get in the hands. Everybody get in the hands. Fuck all y'all. I never even liked y'all in the first place. Y'all got kiss my ass. Y'all got all of that. I'm beating y'all, everybody. I'm locking this shit down, and then I'm beating everybody ass. I promise you. I don't care who it was. I don't care. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I don't care about none of that. What's up? Oh.
I lost mine a while back, and I had always... Our store didn't seem to care too much if we wore them or not, so I didn't know how this guy knew my name. I asked him to leave again, and surprisingly he did. He just turned around and walked out with this creepy grin on his face. I had been prepared for him to give me a hard time. For the rest of that night, he didn't return. Later that night, I got off of work and drove back to my place. I lived in this little townhouse that wasn't very nice. About an hour after getting back from work, there was a knock on my door. I went over to the window and looked out. I obviously wasn't going to answer right away with it being nearly midnight. I saw the same guy there. Now he knew where I lived.
Wow.
I was so creeped out that I called the cops right then and there. The man didn't leave though. He tried opening the door. The first door opened, which was the screen door, but the other one was locked. He knocked on that door again and waited. Then I heard him saying, "Jennifer, I know you're home." It was so creepy. I just stayed inside waiting for the cops. The entire 10 minutes that it took them to get there, the man stayed right there on the step. Then when the police got there, they made him leave. He didn't do anything they could arrest him for apparently, but he was harassing me. He left after they told him to, so that was that. But I was sure to tell them about my job, and we were able to get him trespassed from the Dollar Tree. So if he ever did come back, he would be arrested. Thankfully, he never did.
That's what's up.
This is something that happened not too long ago. I live alone in an apartment building. Store that's down the street. One nice afternoon, I walked there because it only takes like 10 things, and after arriving, I shopped around like normal. There were a few other people there, but I didn't pay any attention to them. I went around, got what I needed, and then paid for it. After leaving the store, I was going to walk back. Overall, things were pretty calm and quiet around the neighborhood. I started walking on the sidewalk to go back home. When I just passed the dollar store, I heard this car leaving, I think the dollar store parking lot. It turned and it seemed like it was going to drive past me. However, it did not. Instead, it got really slow and then started driving even with me. I looked over and didn't recognize the car or the driver. Some guy was driving and then he rolled down the window. Then he told me to get into his car.
What?
He did not seem friendly, but it was more like an angry command. Obviously, I was not going to do that. I asked who he was and I walked faster. The guy kept up with me and kept insisting that I get into his car for some reason, but he didn't say who he was or anything. So at the next street, I took a left, even though I wasn't supposed to. The car took a left to keep up with me. I knew that he was just going to keep following me around at that point. So then I ran down the sidewalk and found an alleyway and then went down that. The car was not able to maneuver over there nearly as fast as me. So I ran down the alleyway and then I did what I could to get away from the guy. I thought that I had lost him, but really I hadn't. I went back to the sidewalk and continued my walk back home. But moments later, I saw the car again and it was approaching me. The car caught up with me and I saw the same guy. This time, I just ran backwards into some random person's yard. I didn't even care if they saw me or got mad or anything. I needed to get away from this guy. So I stayed in the yard and then crossed over into someone else's. This time, I was more careful and eventually I got back to a sidewalk again that led to my house. I walked the rest of the way back home to my apartment building. Then I got inside and went up to my place on the 3rd floor. When I did, I heard a car driving down the road out front that had been pretty quiet. I was curious if it was the same guy, so I looked out the window, and sure enough, it was. He parked the car on the side of the street, and then he walked up to the doors. Thankfully, the apartment building was locked and he couldn't get in. So then he turned around, walked back to his car, and then left. I couldn't believe how he went through that much effort to try to get me to go into his car. And for why? I don't know what could have happened, but I'm glad that I got away from him. I'm not sure if he had been in the dollar store at the same time as me or not. I really don't know, but it was very creepy.
I'm glad you ran the whole ass instead of just staying there and saying, "Oh my God, wait, why you want me to get in your car?" Huh? I'm glad you ran and just instead of just like pausing and like just staying there. But I feel like it's not over though. Like he knows where you live. Like I feel like it's not over. I feel like you should get some Adidas. Check the damn checklist. And just watch your back. That's all I feel like that's all I can tell you. You know? He knows where you live at, so it's just like unless you cluck him up, you're go. Keep it cool, keep it classy, and I love you, stay happy. My family.